Cleaning lady discovers $1 million scam by overhearing conversation in Arabic and saves her boss. Nadia stopped the vacuum cleaner and felt her blood run cold. The words reaching her ears through the half-open door of the conference room shouldn't have made sense to her, but they did. Every syllable in Arabic echoed in her mind like a hammer striking against her chest. The three men seated at the table had no idea that the young 25-year-old cleaning lady, daughter of Lebanese immigrants, understood perfectly what they were plotting against her boss. "Marcus won't even notice when we transfer the properties," said the grey-bearded man, gesturing with his hands as he spoke in the language Nadia had learned at home but had hidden for years. "He trusts his partners too much. That sentimentality of his will be his undoing." Nadia's heart raced. Marcus Thorne owned the construction firm where she had worked for 5 years, a 50-year-old man who had lost his wife in an accident and since then had devoted himself entirely to his work and his only son. Unlike other bosses she'd had, Marcus always greeted her by name, asked about her family, and had even raised her salary without her asking when he learned her mother was sick. "The downtown properties are worth $15 million, continued the second conspirator, a younger man with gold-rimmed glasses. "With the forged documents, our contact prepared, we'll manage to transfer everything to the shell companies. Marcus will only find out when it's too late." Nadia pretended to be focused on cleaning the hallway, but her body was trembling. She wore the navy blue uniform with the company logo embroidered on the chest, her black hair always tied in a discreet bun, trying to go unnoticed, just as she had her whole life. Her Arabic heritage was a secret she kept even from her closest co-workers, afraid of the prejudice she had already faced in other jobs. "And if he gets suspicious?" asked the third man, younger than the others, with a small scar on his chin. "That's why we'll use the information about his wife," the grey-bearded man replied coldly. "We know about the problems she had, the debts she left behind. Marcus would do anything to protect Sarah's memory. If he tries to confront us, we'll threaten to expose her secrets publicly." Nadia had to lean against the wall. Sarah Thorne had been a kind woman who sometimes chatted with the cleaning staff, always smiling and polite. Knowing these men intended to use her memory to blackmail Marcus made her feel nauseous. "We have a week," said the man with the glasses. "Next Tuesday, when Marcus is on his trip to Washington, D.C., we execute everything. By the time he gets back, it'll be too late to reverse." Footsteps approached the door, and Nadia quickly went back to cleaning, pretending she hadn't heard anything. The three men left the room chatting in Portuguese about trivial matters, but she noticed how their eyes quickly sized her up before heading to the elevator. A shiver ran down her spine. Martha, the 60-year-old cleaning supervisor who had become a mother figure to Nadia, appeared in the hallway carrying cleaning supplies. "Nadia, dear, you look pale. Did something happen?" "No, Mrs. Martha. Just tired," Nadia lied, avoiding the older woman's worried gaze. "Those Arabs are important clients of the company. Investors from Dubai, I heard Marcus mention. We can't slack off on the cleaning while they're here." Nadia nodded, but her mind was racing. How could she warn Marcus about the scheme without revealing she understood Arabic? What if he didn't believe her? What if he thought a simple cleaning lady was making up stories? The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. Nadia carried out her tasks mechanically, cleaning bathrooms, emptying trash cans and vacuuming carpets, but her mind was elsewhere. Every time she saw Marcus chatting animatedly with the investors, she felt a growing dread in her chest. He had no idea what was happening right under his nose. At 6 in the evening, when most employees had already left, Nadia was still in the building finishing up the top-floor offices. That's when she heard voices coming from Marcus's office and decided to get closer. The door was slightly ajar, and she could see the businessman sitting at his desk, going through papers as he talked on the phone. "Tyler, I know you're going through a tough time, but dropping out of college isn't the answer," Marcus said in a weary voice. "Your mother always dreamed of seeing you graduate." On the other end of the line, Nadia could hear the agitated voice of the 22-year-old. "Don't give me that, Dad. She's not even here to see it anyway. And all you care about is that damn company. Tyler, please don't say that. Let's talk when I get back from Washington, D.C. next week, okay?" The call ended abruptly, and Marcus sat in silence for a few minutes, staring at the photo of his wife on his desk. Nadia felt a pang in her chest at the sadness etched on the face of the man she admired so much. He didn't deserve to go through yet another betrayal. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The next morning, Nadia arrived earlier than usual, determined to find a way to protect Marcus. She had spent the entire night awake thinking of strategies. Maybe she could leave an anonymous letter warning him about the scheme, or try to record one of the conspirators' conversations. But her plans were interrupted when she saw the 3 Arab men already at the company at 7 in the morning, speaking English with Marcus in the lobby. They wore expensive suits and fake smiles, shaking the businessman's hand like old friends. "Marcus, my friend," said the one with the grey beard and a heavy accent, "we're very excited to finalize our partnership today. The contracts are almost ready." "I'm glad to hear that, Omar," Marcus replied with genuine enthusiasm. "This partnership is going to benefit all of us. You brought exactly the investment we needed to expand." Nadia pretended to be arranging the plants in the lobby, but she caught every word. Omar. Now she knew at least one name. Her heart raced when she realized that the documents they had mentioned in their conversation in Arabic were already being presented. Throughout the morning, she tried to focus on her work, but it was impossible. Every time she saw Marcus smile at the men who intended to rob him, she felt a mix of anger and despair. Around 10 o'clock, she gathered her courage and headed to his office. "Excuse me, Mr. Thorne," she said timidly, knocking on the slightly open door. "Hey, Nadia, come in. Do you need something?" "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about some men who are at the company." Marcus raised his eyebrows, intrigued. "What men?" The Arab investors. I think you should be careful with them." "Careful? Why?" "They're respected clients, Nadia. They came recommended by lawyers from New York City." "It's just that I heard them talking and—" "Nadia," Marcus interrupted gently but firmly. "I understand your concern, but business matters are very complex. These men are going to invest millions into our company. Don't worry about it, okay?" Marcus's polite but dismissive response left Nadia devastated. She had tried to warn him, but he hadn't taken her seriously. How could she? For him, she was just a cleaning lady with no formal education, someone who wouldn't understand the complicated details of the corporate world. "It's fine, Mr. Marcus. Sorry to bother you." "You didn't bother me, Nadia. It's good to know we have employees who care about the company." Nadia left the office feeling even more frustrated. She needed concrete evidence, something Marcus couldn't ignore. She decided she would use her position as a cleaning lady to investigate on her own. Being practically invisible in the company's hallways, she had access to places and information that others wouldn't have. That afternoon, when most employees went out for lunch, Nadia decided to search the meeting room where the conspirators regularly met. She knew it was risky, but she couldn't stand by and watch Marcus walk straight into a trap. The room was empty, and she entered quickly, heading for the trash can near the table. There she found several crumpled papers that the men had thrown away during their meetings. With trembling hands, she smoothed out the pages and tried to understand what was written. Most were in Portuguese, but there were notes in Arabic in the margins. Her heart raced when she recognized numbers that looked like monetary amounts and what seemed to be company names. One paper in particular caught her attention. Marcus's name was written on it several times, along with Arabic words that meant naive and easy to deceive. "What are you doing here?" Nadia turned quickly and came face to face with Omar standing in the doorway, his dark eyes fixed on her with suspicion. She swallowed hard and tried to keep her composure. "Sorry, sir, I was just cleaning the room," she said in Portuguese, hiding the papers behind her back. Omar approached slowly, studying her face. "You're the cleaning lady who's always around when we have our meetings, aren't you?" "Yes, sir. It's my job to clean all the offices." "What's your name?" "Nadia, sir." Omar paused as if processing some information. "Nadia? That's an Arabic name, isn't it?" Nadia's blood ran cold. She had never thought that her name could arouse suspicion. "I don't know, sir. My parents chose it." "Interesting," Omar murmured, still watching her intently. "Do you understand any Arabic, Nadia?" "No, sir. I really only speak Portuguese. Omar didn't seem fully convinced, but he nodded slowly. Well, I suggest you be more careful when cleaning. We wouldn't want important documents to get lost, would we? The veiled threat was clear. Nadia nodded quickly and left the room, but not before hiding the papers she had taken inside her cleaning cart. Her footsteps echoed through the empty hallway as her heart pounded out of rhythm. That night, in her small apartment in Queens, Nadia studied the papers under the light of the kitchen lamp. Her mother, Fatima, a 65-year-old woman with grey hair covered by a colourful scarf, was preparing fennel tea on the stove. "You've been very nervous lately, my daughter. Did something happen at work?" Nadia looked at her mother, who had immigrated from Lebanon more than 30 years ago and had worked her whole life as a seamstress to support the family after the premature passing of her husband. Fatima had never really learned to read Portuguese properly, but she was a wise woman who could always tell when something was bothering her daughter. "Mother, if you knew something bad was going to happen to a good person, but revealing it could cause problems for our family, what would you do?" Fatima stopped stirring the tea and looked into her daughter's eyes. "Nadia, since we arrived in the United States, we've always been taught that honesty and protecting others are values that stand above fear. Your father always used to say that when we have information that can protect an innocent person, our conscience won't leave us in peace until we do the right thing. But what if it costs us our jobs, our safety? My daughter, Allah gave us ears to listen and hearts to feel compassion. If you're certain that a good person is in danger, then you must find a way to help. There is always a way." Her mother's words echoed in Nadia's mind all night long. The next day she arrived at work with a new determination, but also with a growing concern. Omar had clearly grown suspicious of her, and that could complicate everything. Around 9 in the morning, Martha called her in for a private conversation. "Nadia, I need to talk to you. I've received some complaints about your work lately." "Complaints? From whom, Mrs. Martha?" "One of the investors said you were going through papers you shouldn't have. Said he caught you doing something suspicious in the conference room." Nadia felt the ground give way beneath her feet. Omar hadn't wasted any time planting doubts about her. "Mrs. Martha, I was just cleaning. I would never touch anything that wasn't trash." "I believe you, dear, but I'm being pressured by the administrative staff. They want me to transfer you to another building or fire you." "Please, Mrs. Martha, I need this job. My mother depends on my salary." Martha sighed, looking genuinely concerned. "I'll try to hold things off for a few days, but you need to be very careful. Keep your distance from those men, and do your work without drawing attention, all right?" Nadia nodded, but deep down she knew she couldn't simply ignore what was happening. Marcus had only a few days before his trip to Washington, D.C., and when he returned, he could find his company in the hands of the con artists. That afternoon, she decided to try a different approach. Instead of speaking directly to Marcus, she would try to find more evidence that would be impossible to ignore. While cleaning his office, she noticed that he always left his calendar open on his desk. There it was, confirmed. The trip to Washington, D.C. was scheduled for the following Tuesday, exactly when the conspirators planned to make their move. While she was cleaning, Nadia heard footsteps in the hallway and quickly focused on her work. To her surprise, the person who walked in was Tyler, Marcus's son. The 22-year-old had tousled brown hair and an irritated expression on his face. "Is my father here?" "No, Mr. Tyler. He left for a meeting." Tyler walked over to his father's desk and started rummaging through papers, clearly looking for something specific. "Mr. Tyler, can I help you with anything?" "No, I'm just looking for some documents my father promised me." Nadia noticed that the young man seemed nervous, sweating more than usual. Whenever she saw him in the hallways, Tyler was polite but distant. Unlike his father, he never showed any interest in talking to the employees. "Darn it," Tyler muttered after a few minutes of fruitless searching. "He must have taken the papers." "What papers, Mr. Tyler?" Tyler stopped and looked at her as if he had forgotten he wasn't alone. "It's none of your business," he said sharply, but then seemed to regret his tone. "Sorry, it's just that I'm going through some problems and my father—" Well, he promised to help me with something. Mr. Marcus is a very good man. I'm sure he'll sort everything out. You don't understand. There are things even my father can't fix. Mr. Tyler, if you don't mind my asking, are you all right? You seem worried. Tyler looked at her for a moment, as if weighing whether he could trust her. How long have you worked here? 5 years, sir. And you've always been discreet? Always, sir. I'm not one to talk about other people's lives. Tyler sighed and sat down in his father's chair. I'm in a lot of debt. I made some stupid bets, and now I owe money to dangerous people. Nadia felt a pang of worry. Tyler was young, and clearly he'd gotten himself into serious trouble. Have you talked to your father about this, sir? My father wouldn't understand. He's always been very responsible, very straight-laced. If he found out I got involved with online gambling and betting, he'd be disappointed in me. But he loves you, Mr. Thorne. Maybe he could— No, Tyler interrupted. I can't disappoint him any more than I already have. My mother always believed I'd be someone important, and look at what I've become. The vulnerability in the young man's voice touched Nadia's heart. She saw a little of herself in him, someone who carried secrets for fear of disappointing important people. Mr. Thorne, can I say something? Your parents love you. Mistakes don't change that. Sometimes the people who love us most are the ones who can help us most, even when we think we're going to let them down. Tyler was silent for a moment, looking at the photo of his mother on the desk. Thank you, Nadia. It's good to know there are still kind people in the world. When Tyler left, Nadia kept thinking about the conversation. The young man was clearly in trouble, but something about the way he'd talked about not being able to disappoint his father bothered her. There was a tension there she couldn't quite identify. Late that afternoon, while she was cleaning the offices on the ground floor, Nadia heard voices coming from the investors' meeting room. She decided to approach carefully, pretending to clean the hallway nearby. To her surprise, one of the voices was Tyler's. I told you I'm doing my part, she heard Tyler say in a defensive tone. My father trusts me. I'll get you access to the documents you need. You're taking too long, replied a voice Nadia recognized as Omar's. Our timeline can't slip. What if he gets suspicious? What if he finds out I'm involved in this? Then you'll have much bigger problems than your gambling debts, said one of the other conspirators coldly. Nadia felt as if she'd been punched in the gut. Tyler was involved in the scheme against his own father. The young man she'd just advised about honesty and family love was betraying Marcus for the worst possible reasons. On Tuesday, when he's in Washington, D.C., you'll give us full access to the offices, Omar continued. With your fingerprints and access codes, we'll be able to alter all the documents we need without leaving a trace. And after that, my debts will be paid off. Completely. But if you betray us or try to deceive us— I understand, Tyler interrupted quickly. I'll do what you want. Nadia stepped away from the door, her legs shaky. The situation was much worse than she'd imagined. It wasn't just strange men trying to rob Marcus. It was his own son caught up in blackmail and desperation. How could she protect Marcus without destroying Tyler? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing on, the weekend passed like a nightmare for Nadia. She barely slept, tormented by what she'd discovered about Tyler. On Sunday, sitting in the small living room of her apartment, she tried to organize her thoughts while her mother watched the prime-time soap opera. Mum, have you ever regretted a decision you made to protect our family? Fatima turned off the television and faced her daughter. Why these questions, Nadia? You're worrying me. Just curious, that's all. When your father abandoned us, I could have gone back to Lebanon. My family back home always said I should have, but I decided to stay in the United States for you, so you could have more opportunities. Sometimes I wonder if it was the right decision. You made the right choice, Mom. Here I got an education, a job, but we also had to hide who we are. You never tell anyone about our origins, about our culture. That's not a full life, my daughter. Fatima's words struck Nadia like an arrow. She had indeed spent years denying her roots, afraid of prejudice. But now, ironically, It was exactly that knowledge of the Arabic language that allowed her to protect Marcus. On Monday, Nadia arrived at work determined to find a solution that would save both Marcus and Tyler. She couldn't let the son betray the father, nor allow the con artists to destroy the life of a good man. During the morning, she looked for an opportunity to talk to Tyler again. She found it during the lunch break when the young man was alone in the employee break room, fiddling with his phone with a worried expression. "Mr. Tyler, may I speak with you for a moment?" Tyler looked up, seeming more nervous than before. "What is it, Nadia?" "It's about our conversation on Friday. I kept thinking about what you said about being in trouble." "I don't want to talk about that right now," he said, avoiding her gaze. "Mr. Tyler, please. Sometimes, when we're desperate, we make decisions we can regret forever." Tyler stopped fiddling with his phone and looked at her more closely. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about things that can hurt the people we love, things that, even if they solve our immediate problems, create much worse ones later. Nadia, do you know something?" The question confirmed Nadia's suspicions. Tyler was clearly in a panic. "I know you're a good person who's in a very difficult situation, and I know your father loves you more than anything in this world." Tyler lowered his head, and Nadia saw tears forming in his eyes. "You don't understand, Nadia. I got myself into a situation with no way out. If I don't do what they want, they'll hurt the people I love. And if I do it, I'll betray my father." "Who are these people, Mr. Tyler? What do they want?" Tyler looked around to make sure they were alone. "Some guys who lent me money to gamble. When I couldn't pay them back, they found out where I work, who my father is. Now they want me to help them, get some information from the company." "What kind of information?" "Access codes, passwords, documents. Nadia, I didn't want to do this, but they said if I don't help, they'll hurt my family. They could do something to my father." Nadia felt a mix of anger and compassion. Tyler was being manipulated exactly as she had feared, but the consequences were even worse than she had imagined. "Mr. Tyler, you need to tell your father all of this. He can protect the both of you." "No, he can't know. Nadia, please, promise me you won't tell him anything." "Mr. Tyler, promise me," Tyler insisted, grabbing her arm. "If my father finds out, he'll try to protect me and he could end up getting hurt. I'd rather do what they want than put him at risk." Nadia found herself at an impossible crossroads. She promised not to tell, but deep down she knew she couldn't just stand by and watch father and son be destroyed by this scheme. During the afternoon, while cleaning the executive floor, Nadia overheard a phone conversation from Marcus that left her even more distressed. "Yes, Mr. Harrison, you can prepare the transfer documents for tomorrow. The Arab investors want to speed up the process. I also found that rush strange, but they claim international scheduling issues. All right, see you tomorrow morning before my trip." After hanging up, Marcus sighed and looked once more at the photo of his wife. Nadia watched as he opened a desk drawer and pulled out some yellowed letters. They were old letters, possibly written by Sarah. He held them carefully, like someone handling precious relics. "Sarah, if you were here, you'd know how to advise me about Tyler," he murmured softly. "He's pulling away from me, and I don't know how to help him anymore." The scene moved Nadia deeply. Marcus was a man alone, trying to be both a father and a businessman at the same time, unaware that both his company and his son were in danger. At that moment, she made a final decision. No matter the risks, she would protect Marcus. That night, Nadia worked later than usual, waiting for the building to empty out completely. When she was sure she was alone, she made her way back to the conspirators' meeting room. This time she was prepared with her phone to record any evidence she could find. The room was locked, but Nadia knew where Mrs. Martha kept the master keys. She entered carefully and began searching through the drawers and files. She found several documents in Arabic containing detailed information about Marcus's properties, including price assessments and transfer plans. But it was in a folder hidden behind the files that she found something that shocked her. Photos of Sarah in compromising situations, dated years back, along with documents suggesting she had taken on secret debts to support a gambling addiction. These were exactly the pieces of information the conspirators planned to use to blackmail Marcus. Nadia photographed everything with her phone, but as she put the documents back in place, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Her heart raced. Quickly, she turned off the lights and hid behind the window curtain. The door opened, and 3 figures walked in. By the voice, she recognized Omar and his 2 associates. "Tomorrow is the day," Omar said in Arabic. "As soon as Marcus boards his flight to Washington, D.C., the Sun will give us full access." "And what if the Arab cleaning lady becomes a problem?" asked one of the others. "Already handled. I spoke with her supervisor. She'll be fired tomorrow, citing cost cuts. We can't take any risks." "Great. And once we transfer everything?" "We disappear. Marcus will only find out about the scheme when he gets back, and by then it'll be too late to trace the money." Nadia stood frozen behind the curtain. Not only would Marcus be robbed, but she would also lose her job. Omar had made sure she wouldn't be around to potentially interfere. After the men left, Nadia waited several minutes before coming out of her hiding spot. Her hands were shaking as she sent the photos she had taken to her own email as a backup. Now she had concrete evidence, but she still needed to find a way to present it to Marcus without revealing how she had obtained it. On Tuesday morning, Nadia arrived at work at 6 o'clock, 2 hours before her usual time. She knew Marcus always arrived early on travel days and wanted to intercept him before events unfolded. She found Marcus in the garage, loading a suitcase into the trunk of his car. "Mr. Marcus!" He turned around, surprised. "Nadia, you're here early today. Did something happen?" "Mr. Marcus, I really need to speak with you. It's urgent." Marcus glanced at his watch. "Nadia, I need to head to the airport in a few minutes. Can you make it quick?" "It's about the Arab investors, sir. They're not what they seem." Marcus sighed, looking impatient. "Nadia, we've already talked about this. I know you care about the company, but—" "Mr. Marcus, please, just give me 5 minutes. I can prove what I'm saying." "Prove it how?" Nadia took a deep breath. It was now or never. "Because I understand Arabic, sir. I understand every word they say." Marcus stopped and looked at her with renewed attention. "You understand Arabic?" "Yes, sir. My parents are Lebanese. I never told you because sometimes people are prejudiced." "And you heard them talking?" "They're planning to steal your properties today, Mr. Marcus, while you're away on your trip, and they're using your son to do it." Marcus's face went pale. "Tyler? What are you talking about?" "They found out about his debts and they're blackmailing him. Mr. Tyler doesn't want to betray you, but he's scared. They threatened to hurt his family." Marcus leaned against the car, looking shocked. "Are you sure about this?" Nadia showed him her phone with the photos of the documents. "I have proof, Mr. Marcus. And I also found out they have information about your wife. Things she did in secret. They plan to use that to blackmail you if you find out about the scheme." Marcus looked at the photos on the phone, and Nadia saw his hands trembling. "How did you get this?" I went into their office last night. I know I did wrong, but I couldn't let them rob you." Marcus was silent for several minutes, processing everything. "Nadia, why did you do this? Why did you risk yourself for me?" "Because you're a good man, Mr. Marcus. You always treated me with respect even though I'm just a cleaning lady, and because what they're doing isn't right." Marcus looked into her eyes with an expression Nadia had never seen before. "You're not just a cleaning lady, Nadia. You're a person of integrity and courage, and I owe you a debt of gratitude I can never fully repay." "What are you going to do now?" "I'm going to cancel the trip and confront those men, but first I need to talk to Tyler." "Mr. Marcus, don't be too hard on him. He's being blackmailed. Deep down, he doesn't want to do this." "I know, Nadia. Thank you for opening my eyes." Marcus picked up his phone and cancelled the trip, then called Tyler, asking him to come to the company immediately. Next, he called his lawyer and asked him to bring 2 security guards. While waiting, Nadia stayed in the parking lot with Marcus, who seemed lost in thought. "Nadia, may I ask why you always hid the fact that you speak Arabic?" "Fear, Mr. Marcus. Fear of losing my job, of being mistreated. It's happened before. I'm sorry you went through that. It must have been very hard to hide such an important part of who you are." "It was, sir. but today I understood that sometimes we have to show who we really are to protect the people we care about. Marcus smiled for the first time that morning. You reminded me that there are still good people in this world. Tyler arrived half an hour later, visibly nervous. When he saw his father still at the company instead of at the airport, he went pale. Dad, I thought you had already left. I cancelled the trip. We need to talk, son. Marcus took Tyler to his office and Nadia stayed at the reception. Even from a distance, she could hear the voices rising. First, Tyler denying everything, then Marcus showing the evidence, and finally the young man breaking down in tears and confessing everything. Around 10 o'clock, the three conspirators arrived at the company, expecting to find a clear path to carry out the scheme. Instead, they were met by Marcus, his lawyer, and 2 security guards. Nadia watched from afar as Omar and his companions were confronted with the evidence. At first, they tried to deny it, but when Marcus showed the photos of the documents and mentioned that he had a witness who understood Arabic, their expressions changed dramatically. You really thought you could fool someone in our own language, said Marcus, looking directly at Omar. The negotiation that followed was tense. The men tried to downplay their actions, claiming it was just a misunderstood business deal. But Marcus had too much evidence, and his lawyer made it clear they could face legal proceedings. In the end, a settlement was reached. The conspirators returned all the documents, cancelled any transfer that might have been initiated, and signed an agreement committing not to contact Marcus or his company again. In exchange, Marcus would not press criminal charges against them. Omar looked at Nadia as he was leaving, his eyes full of anger at having been found out by someone he had underestimated. You're smarter than you look, he said in Arabic. And you're exactly what you appear, Nadia replied, also in Arabic, surprising him. After the men left, Marcus called Nadia for a private conversation in his office. Tyler was also there, red-eyed but visibly relieved. Nadia, I don't even know how to begin thanking you, Marcus said. You don't need to thank me, Mr. Thorne. I did what any decent person would do. No, Nadia, you did much more than that. You risked your job, your safety, to protect our family, and you did it alone without expecting anything in return. Tyler approached her. Nadia, I want to apologize. You tried to advise me, and I almost made a terrible mistake. If it weren't for you, I would have betrayed my father and destroyed our family. Mr. Thorne, you were being blackmailed. The important thing is that now everything can be resolved. About your debts, Marcus interrupted, I've already spoken with my lawyer. We're going to find a legal way to resolve this situation without leaving you vulnerable to this kind of blackmail again. Dad, I don't deserve your help after what I almost did. You're my son, Tyler, and family protects its own. Nadia reminded me of that today. Marcus turned to Nadia. Nadia, I'd like to offer you a position at our company, not as a cleaning lady, but as an internal security supervisor. Someone who can observe and identify suspicious situations, someone I can trust completely. Nadia was in shock. Mr. Thorne, I don't have the education for a position like that. You have something much more valuable than formal education. You have integrity, courage, and intelligence. These are qualities that can't be learned from books. And the salary would be 3 times what you earn now, Marcus added, plus full health insurance for you and your mother. Nadia felt tears in her eyes. It was more than she had ever dreamed. I accept, Mr. Thorne. Thank you so much. That afternoon, Martha sought out Nadia to give her the news that she would be fired due to cost-cutting, following the instructions she had received. She was surprised when Marcus appeared and explained that, on the contrary, Nadia had been promoted. Promoted? Asked Martha, confused. To internal security supervisor, Marcus explained. And I'd like you to help with the transition, Martha. Nadia will need someone experienced to guide her in the first few months. Martha looked at Nadia with a mix of surprise and pride. Oh, honey, what wonderful news. I always knew you were special. In the following days, the news spread throughout the company. Some employees were surprised by Nadia's sudden promotion, but most were happy for her. She had always been respected for her honesty and dedication. Marcus organized a brief training program for Nadia, teaching her the basics of corporate security. administrative procedures, and how to identify suspicious situations. She demonstrated an ability to learn that impressed everyone. "You have a naturally analytical mind," Marcus commented during one of the training sessions. "You can notice details that others ignore." "I think I learned that from being invisible for so long," Nadia replied. "When people don't notice you, you end up seeing a lot." A week later, Nadia received her first official assignment, investigating some inconsistencies in the financial reports of a branch office. She applied the same attention to detail she'd always had, but now with the authority to act. In her first week as supervisor, she uncovered a small overbilling scheme that was costing the company thousands of dollars a month. Once again, her powers of observation had saved Marcus from losses. "Dad, how did you know Nadia would be so good at this role?" Tyler asked during a dinner. "Because I watched her for 5 years. I saw how she worked, how she treated people, how she cared about details. I just hadn't realized her full potential." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. Tyler, for his part, had started therapy to deal with his gambling addiction and was attending support group meetings. His relationship with his father grew stronger every day, now built on complete honesty. "Nadia," he said one afternoon, "you saved my life too. If I had betrayed my father, I would never have been able to forgive myself. The important thing is that everything worked out, Mr. Tyler. Now you can move forward. Stop calling me Mr. Tyler, Nadia. We're practically the same age, and after everything we've been through together, I think we can be friends." Nadia smiled. It was good to finally be herself at work. A month after her promotion, Nadia was organizing some documents when Marcus walked into her new office. "How are you settling in?" "Very well, Mr. Marcus. I'm still learning, but I feel fulfilled." "Nadia, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course, sir." "Have you ever thought about studying?" "Going to college? I've always wanted to, but I never had the financial means, and now I'm afraid it's too late." "It's never too late. The company has a scholarship program for employees. How about we look into you taking a course in corporate security or business administration?" Nadia felt her heart race. "You would do that for me?" "No, Nadia, I would do it for US. You investing in your education is an investment in our company too." That night, Nadia told her mother about the opportunity to study. "I'm proud of you, my daughter," said Fatima, her eyes shining. "You found a way to use our knowledge to do good." "Mom, now I understand what you always said about not hiding who we are. And I understand that sometimes we need to be careful to protect ourselves. You chose the right moment to reveal your truth." In the following months, Nadia's life changed in ways she never imagined. She started a college degree in business administration with a focus on corporate security, always with the support of Marcus and the company. Her new position brought her into contact with other business people and professionals, expanding her social network. She discovered that many respected her story of dedication and her ability to observe. During a meeting with business leaders from the Arabic community in New York City, Nadia met other professionals who, like her, had faced prejudice. She was invited to speak about her experience at events on diversity in the workplace. "Our story should not be a source of shame," she said in a talk. "Our background gives us unique perspectives that can benefit any company." Marcus watched the talk and felt proud of Nadia's transformation. "She has become an important voice for the community," he commented to Tyler. "And to think we almost lost such a valuable person because of prejudice. Dad, can I confess something? I had prejudices too. I never thought someone like Nadia could be so intelligent and brave. And what did you learn from that? That we should look at people by what they do, not by the position they hold or where they come from." The relationship between Marcus and Tyler continued to strengthen. The young man had graduated from college and started working at the company, but now in an environment of mutual trust. "Nadia," Marcus said one day, "you didn't just save my company, you saved my family." "Mr. Thorne, it was my family who taught me the values that allowed me to help. My mother always said that when we have the chance to protect good people, we should do it." 2 years later, Nadia had become one of the most respected employees at the company. Her security oversight work had saved millions of dollars in potential fraud, and her reputation in the business community was steadily growing. During the company's holiday party, Marcus made a special speech. 2 years ago, our company faced a crisis that could have destroyed us, but we were saved by someone most of us barely noticed. Nadia taught us that the most valuable people aren't always the most visible. Nadia was moved by his words and by the round of applause she received from all her colleagues. "Mr. Thorne," she said into the microphone, "you gave me an opportunity when I was invisible. Now I know I will never have to hide who I am again." Nadia's mother, Fatima, was at the party, wearing a colorful headscarf and smiling proudly. "My daughter has found her voice," she murmured to Martha, who had become a close friend of the family. "She always had a voice," Martha replied. "She just needed someone to listen." During the party, Tyler approached Nadia. "Nadia, I wanted to tell you that I met a girl. And guess what? The first thing I did was tell her about my past problems and how you helped me. And how did she react? She said that anyone who has friends like you must be special." Nadia laughed. "Looks like you learned your lesson about honesty." "I learned that the truth, even when it hurts, is always better than a lie." At the end of the party, Marcus called Nadia aside for a private conversation. "Nadia, I have a proposal for you." "What kind of proposal?" "I want you to become a minority partner in the company. Your contribution goes far beyond any salary I could pay you." Nadia was speechless. "Mr. Thorne, I don't know if—" "You deserve this, Nadia. And more importantly, the company needs you as a partner. It needs your perspective, your integrity. Can I think about it?" "Of course, but I want you to know that this offer comes from the recognition that you are not just an employee. You are family." That night, Nadia had a long conversation with her mother about the proposal. "Mom, I never imagined I would go this far. I always knew you were special, my daughter. You have your grandfather's heart, always willing to protect others. What do you think I should do? I think you should accept, not for money or status, but because you can use that position to help other people like us. People who need opportunities." A week later, Nadia accepted Marcus's proposal. Her first initiative as a partner was to create a development program for employees of all backgrounds, with a special focus on immigrants and people from marginalized communities. "I want our company to be a place where no one has to hide who they are to be respected," she said during the program presentation. The program was a success, attracting diverse talent and improving the company's reputation in the community. Marcus was proud to see Nadia becoming a respected leader. "You transformed our company," he said during a meeting. "No, Mr. Marcus. You allowed it to transform when you decided to listen to a cleaning woman." 3 years after the episode with the scammers, Nadia had graduated in business administration and was pursuing a specialization in corporate security. Her story had become known in business circles as an example of how valuing employees can transform organizations. In an interview for a business magazine, she was asked about the moment that changed her life. "It was when I decided I could no longer be invisible, that my responsibility to good people was greater than my personal fears." "And what advice would you give to people in similar situations?" "That your background, your social position, or your job don't define your worth. That each of us has unique knowledge and perspectives that can make a difference. And that courage isn't not being afraid. It's doing the right thing even when you're afraid." The company continued to thrive, and the partnership between Marcus and Nadia grew stronger. Tyler had gotten married and worked as a project manager, always crediting Nadia for helping him find the right path. "You both saved me," he said during his wife's baby shower. "Nadia taught me about moral courage, and you, Dad, taught me about forgiveness." Marcus smiled, looking at Nadia, who was chatting animatedly with the other women present. "Actually, son, she's the one who saved us all." 5 years after the original episode, the company had tripled in size and had become a benchmark in inclusive practices and corporate security. Nadia had been invited to speak at universities and corporate events across the country. During one of those talks, a young student of Arabic descent approached her. "Professor Nadia, your story inspired me not to hide my background. How can I have courage like you did?" "Courage comes when you understand that your truth can protect and help others. When you realize that hiding harms not only yourself, but everyone who could benefit from your unique perspective. And what if I face prejudice?" "You will face it. But you'll also find people like my boss, who value truth and diversity. And every time you're brave, you pave the way for others to be brave too." The young student smiled, visibly inspired. "Thank you, Professor. I'll try to be as brave as you." Nadia felt a familiar warmth in her chest. It was the same feeling she'd had when she decided to protect Marcus, the certainty of doing the right thing. That night, at home with her mother, now 70 years old but still strong and wise, Nadia reflected on her journey. "Mom, sometimes I still can't believe how my life has changed." "Your life didn't change, my daughter. It simply revealed itself. You were always brave and smart. You just needed an opportunity to show it." "And what if I hadn't understood Arabic that day? Then you would have found another way to protect the people you love. That's your nature." Nadia hugged her mother, grateful to have a family that taught her the values that guided her through the hardest moments. "Mom, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course, dear. Sometimes I still clean my own office. It reminds me of where I came from and keeps me humble." Fatima laughed. "And that's exactly why you deserve to be where you are." In her office, Nadia kept a photo of herself as a cleaning woman next to her business administration diploma. It was a constant reminder of her journey and the people who supported her along the way. Marcus, now 55, had become not just her partner but a close friend. Sometimes they talked about how a single moment of courage had changed all of their lives. "Nadia," he said one day, "have you ever thought about writing a book about your experience?" "Why would I do that?" "Because your story can inspire other people. It can teach business owners about the value of truly listening to their employees, and it can give hope to people who feel invisible. Maybe I'll do that someday. When you do, I want to write the foreword." "What would you write?" "That I met a courageous cleaning lady who taught me that the most important people in our lives aren't always the ones we expect." 10 years after the original incident, Nadia had become one of the most respected businesswomen in New York City. Her corporate security consulting firm served clients throughout the United States, always focusing on ethical and inclusive practices. During an awards ceremony where she received recognition for her contribution to the American business environment, Nadia gave a speech that moved the audience. 10 years ago, I was a cleaning lady who hid her background out of fear. Today, I stand here not in spite of my background, but because of it. My perspective as an immigrant, my experience as a humble worker, my knowledge of other cultures, all of this made me who I am." The audience rose to their feet in applause. "If there's one thing I've learned, it's that our diversity is our strength. When we hide who we are, we deprive the world of our unique contributions. When we're brave enough to be authentic, we create opportunities not just for ourselves but for everyone who comes after us." Marcus and Tyler were in the audience, both visibly moved. Martha, now retired but still an important presence in Nadia's life, wiped tears from her eyes. After the ceremony, a young journalist interviewed her. "Ms. Nadia, what was the most important moment of your career?" "When I decided to stop being invisible and use my voice to protect people I respected." "And what advice would you give to people who feel invisible in their jobs?" "That your visibility doesn't depend on the position you hold, but on the actions you take. That courage isn't a privilege for a few, it's a choice we can all make. And that sometimes the most important people to protect are those who don't even know they need protection." The journalist carefully wrote down her words. "One last question. Do you regret anything about your journey?" Nadia thought for a moment. "I regret taking so long to accept who I am, wasting years hiding my background. But I understand that I needed that specific moment to find courage. Sometimes we need to be ready for our own revelations." 15 years later, Nadia's story had become part of the curriculum at some business schools as a case study on ethical leadership and diversity in the workplace. At her company, she maintained a mentoring program for young professionals from diverse backgrounds, always reminding them that their differences were advantages, not obstacles. "Remember," she would say during mentoring sessions, "you're not here to adapt to what already exists. You're here to contribute perspectives that no one else can offer." Marcus, now nearing 60, had become a grandfather and often brought his granddaughter to visit the company. The girl would always run to greet Aunt Nadia, who had become part of the Thorne family. "Dad, Tyler said one day. Have you ever thought about how different our lives would be if Nadia hadn't had the courage that day? I think about it often, not just about the money we could have lost, but about you. If you had betrayed our family because of blackmail, I believe you would never have forgiven yourself. And I would never have learned about forgiveness, about second chances. Nadia taught us that family isn't just blood, it's choice. It's mutual care. During a company board meeting, now 20 years after the original incident, Nadia proposed the creation of a foundation to support children of immigrants in pursuing their higher education. I want young people like I once was to have opportunities without having to hide who they are, she explained. That's a wonderful idea, said Marcus. What name do you suggest for the foundation? The Sarah Thorne Foundation, in honor of your wife who always treated everyone with dignity, regardless of social standing. Marcus was visibly moved. Nadia, this means so much to me. Sarah would be proud to know her memory is being used to help other people. The foundation was established and in its first 5 years helped over 100 young people complete their higher education. Many of them, inspired by Nadia's story, went on to careers in companies focused on inclusion and diversity. At a graduation ceremony for the foundation's scholarship recipients, Nadia was invited as the keynote speaker. You are living proof that when we invest in the right people for the right reasons, we create change that multiplies across generations, she said. Each of you now carries the responsibility of opening doors for others, of using your positions to make your workplaces more inclusive and fair. One of the graduates, a young Syrian man who had arrived in the United States as a refugee, approached her after the ceremony. Ms. Nadia, your story gave me hope when I thought I would never be accepted here. And now I know I can contribute to this country in unique ways, thanks to my experience as a refugee. Exactly. Your differences are your superpowers. The young man smiled. I'll remember that. 25 years after the original incident, Nadia was about to turn 60. Her mother, Fatima, had passed away 3 years earlier at the age of 90, surrounded by her daughter and an extended family that included the Thornes. During Fatima's funeral, Marcus made a point of speaking about how the woman's wisdom had shaped the daughter who had saved his family. Fatima taught me that true wealth is not what we accumulate, but the lives we touch, he said. She raised a daughter who embodies the very best values of humanity. In Fatima's will, there was a letter for Nadia that made her cry for hours. My dear daughter, I always knew you were destined for great things, not because you were different from others, but because you kept your heart pure even when the world tried to harden it. Use your position to continue protecting the vulnerable. That is our true inheritance. Inspired by her mother's words, Nadia expanded her philanthropic activities. She established a community center in Queens that offered translation services, legal counseling, and professional support for newly arrived immigrants. My mother always said our responsibility is to make the path easier for those who come after us, she explained during the center's opening. Marcus, now with hair completely gray, remained her closest partner in business and in life. He had never remarried, finding in his deep friendship with Nadia and the extended family, they had built the emotional fulfillment he needed. Nadia, he said during a walk in the park near the office, have you ever thought about how our friendship began? With you being kind to an invisible cleaning woman, and you being brave enough to protect a stranger. You were never a stranger to me, Marcus. From the very first day, I saw in you the kind of person my mother taught me to respect. And I saw in you, even without realizing it at the time, exactly the kind of person Sarah would have admired. They walked in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Marcus, can I confess something? Always. Sometimes I still dream about that day. With the men planning to rob you, with Tyler being blackmailed. And I wake up grateful for having had the courage to act. And I wake up every day grateful that you existed in my life. At 60 years old, Nadia decided to write her memoirs. The book, titled Invisible, How a Cleaning Woman Changed a Company and Found Her Voice, became a national bestseller. During the book launch, she was asked what her greatest accomplishment was. Having learned that our origins are not our limitations, they are our strength. Having discovered that when we use our unique talents to protect others, we create waves of change that reach far beyond our own lives. A young man in the audience raised his hand. Ms. Nadia, how can someone know if they have the courage to do what you did? Courage isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you choose to exercise. It starts small. Standing up for a co-worker being mistreated, reporting something suspicious you witnessed, being honest about who you are. Every small act of courage prepares you for the big moments. And what if people don't believe you? Then you find evidence, you persist. You remember that your responsibility isn't to convince everyone, but to protect those who might be harmed by your silence. In the following years, Nadia's book was translated into several languages and became required reading in business ethics courses around the world. Tyler, now 42 years old and a father of 3, often brought the kids to visit Grandma Nadia, as they called her. "Auntie Nadia," said his oldest daughter, age 8, "Daddy says you saved our family. How did you do it?" Nadia smiled, lifting the girl onto her lap. "I listened when someone needed help and decided that was more important than my fears." "Can I do that too?" "Of course you can. Every time you see someone being mistreated at school and decide to help, you're doing the same thing." The girl nodded seriously. "I'm going to be brave like you." "You're already brave, sweetheart. You just need to remember that in the important moments." When Nadia turned 65, the company organized a big party in her honor. Employees from multiple generations were present, many of whom had been hired due to the inclusion policies she had implemented. During his speech at the party, Marcus told the full story publicly for the first time, sharing every detail of how Nadia had saved them. "She risked everything, her job, her safety, her privacy, to protect our family," he said. "And when I offered her a reward, she only asked for the chance to grow professionally. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for recognition. She asked for opportunity. And with that opportunity, she built not just a successful career, but a legacy of change that benefited hundreds of people." Nadia stood up to respond, visibly moved. 40 years ago, I was a young woman hiding her identity out of fear. Today, I stand here surrounded by a family I chose, and that chose me. If there's one thing I'd like everyone to take from tonight, it's this: you are more powerful than you imagine. Each of you has unique knowledge, perspectives, and talents. Don't waste them out of fear. Don't hide out of insecurity. The world needs exactly what you have to offer. The party continued late into the night, with employees of all ages sharing stories about how Nadia had influenced their careers and personal lives. A young employee approached her at the end of the night. "Miss Nadia, I started working here as an intern 2 years ago. I never had the courage to talk about my Native American heritage because I thought I'd be discriminated against. And now? Now I use my knowledge of traditional sustainability to help the company develop environmental projects. I discovered that my background isn't an obstacle, it's a competitive advantage." Nadia smiled. "Exactly. Our diversity isn't a problem to be solved. It's a solution to be celebrated." In the years that followed, Nadia began gradually stepping back from her direct business activities, focusing more on lectures, mentoring, and philanthropic work. During one of her final talks as an active businesswoman at a university in New York City, she was asked about regrets. "My only regret is taking so long to fully accept who I am. I wasted precious years trying to be invisible when I could have been making a difference." What advice would you leave for the next generation? That they embrace their backgrounds, their differences, their unique perspectives. That they understand their authenticity is their greatest asset. And that they remember, when you use your talents to protect others, you don't just change individual lives, you change entire systems. A student raised their hand. "Professor, how can we identify the moments when we need to be brave?" Those moments identify themselves. They arrive as a tightness in your chest when you see something wrong happening, as an inner voice that says, "I can help," as a certainty that staying silent will cost more than speaking up. And if we're wrong, it's better to be wrong while trying to protect someone than to be right by doing nothing. Mistakes made when we act out of love can be corrected. The regrets of not acting out of fear haunt us forever. At 70 years old, Nadia was officially retired, but she remained active in her philanthropic and mentoring work. Marcus, at 75, had passed the company presidency to Tyler, but he was still an active consultant. The two friends met weekly for lunch to talk about life, business, and the changes they had witnessed in the corporate world in the United States. "Nadia," said Marcus during one of those lunches, "have you ever calculated how many people were impacted by your decision to tell me about the scheme?" "Not directly." "Why?" "I've been thinking about it recently. There were you and your family, me and my family, the company employees who kept their jobs, the young people helped by the foundation, the people who were inspired by your story. It must be thousands." "Marcus, you're being dramatic." "No, I'm being mathematical. And that's only the first generation of impact. The children of the people you helped, the employees they hired applying your values, the effect multiplies indefinitely." Nadia grew thoughtful. "I never thought of it that way." "You should. It's important that you understand the magnitude of what you did. A single courageous decision created waves that are still spreading. You know what amazes me most? It's that everything started because I overheard a conversation I wasn't meant to hear." Marcus laughed. "Or maybe it was exactly for you to hear. Maybe you were in the right place at the right time, with the right skills precisely because the universe needed you to hear that conversation." "Do you believe that?" "I believe certain people are placed in our lives at the right moments, and you were clearly placed in my life to save me from much more than lost money." At 75, Nadia was honored by the New York state government for her contribution to the region's social and business development. During the ceremony, the governor read a brief biography of her journey that moved everyone in attendance. Nadia started as a cleaning lady and became one of the most respected businesswomen in the United States. But more than that, she used her position to create opportunities for other people. Her immigrant support center has already served more than 5,000 families. Her educational foundation has already graduated more than 500 young people. Her corporate inclusion programs had become a national model. Nadia, now with completely white hair but still with the same attentive, determined look as ever, received the medal with humility. "This honor isn't just mine," she said in her acceptance speech. "It belongs to all the immigrants who came before me and paved the way. To my mother, who taught me that our responsibility is to take care of one another. To Marcus Thorne, who taught me that true leadership is giving opportunities. And it belongs to all the young people who will carry on this work after us. Our greatest victory isn't what we've achieved, but what we've made possible for the generations to come." During the cocktail reception after the ceremony, a young journalist approached her. "Mrs. Nadia, after this whole journey, how do you define success?" "Success is when you look back and see that your life made a difference in the lives of others, when you know the world is a little better because you existed." "And what are you most proud of?" "Having discovered that the shy girl who hid her origins would become a woman capable of inspiring others to embrace theirs. Having learned that our fears don't define our limits." At 80 years old, Nadia was physically frailer, but her mind was still sharp. She lived in a comfortable apartment in downtown New York City, surrounded by photos from every phase of her life and of all the people she had helped over the years. Marcus, now 85, visited her regularly. The two had become more than friends. They were family in the truest sense of the word. During one of those visits, he brought a surprise, a photo album he had put together with important moments from their friendship, spanning nearly 5 decades. "Look where we started," he said, showing a photo of Nadia in her cleaning uniform, taken during a company party in the 80s. "And look how far we've come," she replied, pointing to a recent photo of the two of them at the opening of the latest community center. "Nadia, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course, Marcus. Every night before I go to sleep, I give thanks that you had courage that day, not just for what you saved, but for what you taught me." "What did I teach you?" "That the most important people in our lives can be right in front of us, and we don't see them because we're looking in the wrong place." Nadia held her friend's hand. "And you taught me that when someone truly sees us, our lives can change completely. I think we saved each other. I think we did. In her final years, Nadia devoted herself to writing letters to the young people who had benefited from her programs. Each letter was personalized, full of specific advice and encouragement. In one of those letters, to a young Syrian woman who was starting her own business, she wrote, "Dear Amina, always remember that your origins aren't your burden, they're your advantage. Use your knowledge of other cultures, your unique perspectives, your resilience as an immigrant. Those are your superpowers in the business world. And when someone tries to make you feel small because of your origins, remember, they're missing the opportunity to learn from you. The loss is theirs, not yours." The young woman kept the letter as a treasure, and years later, when she became a successful businesswoman, she framed it in her office. The end of the story. And now, dear listeners, we have reached the end of this emotional journey. Nadia showed us that courage knows no social standing and that sometimes the most important people are the ones who go unnoticed. Her story teaches us that our origins should not be a reason for shame, but a source of strength and distinction. What did you think of this story of overcoming adversity? Do you believe Nadia made the right decision when she risked everything to protect Marcus? Share your thoughts, tell us where you're watching from, and let us know if you've had similar experiences to share. We're incredibly grateful for your company on this touching story. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional narratives like this one.